Vast majority of lucrative NFL free agent signings failed to pan out, but the 2023 class was certainly different. While many of the more pricey signings flopped mightily, there was also no shortage of big-name guys who lived up to or even outperformed their new contracts. But the regular season now in the books, let us dive into the 5 worst NFL free agent signings of 2023 and the 5 absolute best. Worst, Jimmy Garoppolo. This contract seemed like a mistake from day one. Lo and behold, it took the Las Vegas Raiders 6 games to punt on the Jimmy G experiment. For cutting Derek Carr, the Raiders pivoted to the oft-injured Garoppolo and handed him a 3-year contract worth $72.75 million. The hope was that Garoppolo would provide stability at QB, with head coach Josh McDaniels, Jimmy G's OC in New England, now leading the way. Garoppolo missed 2 games in the first half of the season due to injury, but the final straw was a Week 8 outing against the Detroit Lions. Garoppolo completed 10 of 21 pass attempts for 126 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception in a 26-14 loss. Rookie Aiden O'Connell took over as the starter from there, finishing with a 5-5 record that helped beloved interim head coach Antonio Pierce retain the head coaching position. Jimmy G's season ended with 1,205 passing yards in 7 game appearances, 7 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. If he was an average Joe and Kyle Shanahan's star-studded offense, what made the Raiders think that Garoppolo would be a superstar again? Seriously, someone make it make sense! Best, Baker Mayfield. Go through just about every NFL expert's season predictions ahead of Week 1, and you'll see just about all of them ranking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a bottom 3 or 5 team. The Bucs lost Tom Brady to retirement and carried over $80 million in dead money for 2023, so how on earth were they supposed to do anything good this year with Baker Mayfield? On his 4th team in 3 years, by the way, replacing the GOAT. Mayfield accepted a 1-year pact worth $4 million from the desperate and cap-strapped Bucs, eventually winning the starting QB over Kyle Trask. If anything, Baker was going to struggle mightily and essentially help Tampa tank for a top 5 pick, right? Well, not so fast. Playing with a chip on his shoulder, the former first overall pick instead pieced together a career year with 4,044 passing yards and 28 touchdowns against only 10 interceptions. The Bucs just barely won the NFC South over the New Orleans Saints via tiebreaker with a 9-8 record. Continuing the magic, Baker and the Bucs crushed the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles on Super Wildcard Weekend, before narrowly falling to Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions in the divisional round. Somehow, the Bucs were better with Mayfield in 2023 than they were with Brady last year. As it turns out, Mayfield was never a draft bust. He just needed to find a team that believed in him. One that would actually build the offense around him. Mayfield's a starter in this league, and hopefully it'll be with the Bucs long term. A division title and a playoff win for $4 million? Yeah, that is an all-time coup by GM Jason Light. Worst, Derek Carr. Carr's first season with the New Orleans Saints had mixed results. But when a team pays a quarterback $150 million over 4 years, mixed results ain't gonna cut it. You gotta bring your A game. Unfortunately, Carr didn't really do that until the final quarter or so of the season. The Saints had one of football's softest schedules this year, and they played in the league's worst division. Carr was supposed to jumpstart a talented offense featuring Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Juwan Johnson and get them back into the postseason. But Carr's first year with the Saints was marred by inconsistent play, temper tantrums, and blow-ups on his teammates. He finished with just 3,878 passing yards on the year, with 228.1 passing yards per contest, marking Carr's lowest average since his 2014 rookie year. Carr had 25 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, which really doesn't look that bad on paper at first glance, but he had 4 games without a single TD pass, and he only had multiple passing TDs in 8 of the Saints' 17 games. His final stat line looks solid because Carr led New Orleans to a 4-1 finish, but his play was mediocre at best for the first 3 or so quarters of the year. Look, he just left it too little too late, and the Saints finished 9-8 and missed out on the postseason for the 3rd straight year. It's not a stretch to suggest that 2024 will likely be Carr's last chance to show not only the Saints, but every other NFL team that he is a capable, long-term starting QB option. Best, Samson Ebukam. Looking to bolster the pass rush, the Indianapolis Colts signed the former Los Angeles Ram and San Francisco 49er to a 3-year deal worth $24 million. It felt like nothing more than a depth signing, but all Ebukam did was turn in his best season yet under first-year head coach Shane Steichen. Ebukam finished as the Colts sack leader with 9.5, having also provided 3 forced fumbles. But the stat line alone does not do justice. Ebukam finished 3rd in ESPN's Edge Defender Run Stop win rankings, behind only Max Crosby and Will Anderson Jr. Ebukam also finished 16th in ESPN's Edge Defender pass rush win rate rankings. His efforts helped the Colts to a surprising 9-8 record, as they ultimately fell just short of making a surprise return to the postseason. But with Ebukam, DeForest Buckner, and rising star Kwity Paye, the future is ultra bright for this young Indy team. Worst, Joan Taylor. Having lost All-Pro offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr. to the rival Cincinnati Bengals in free agency, the Chiefs decided to replace him with ex-Jacksonville Jaguars standout Joan Taylor. Oddly, Taylor has never been as good as Brown. Yep, he wound up earning more money in free agency. Taylor got a 4-year, $80 million pact with KC, while the Bengals got Brown Jr. on a $64 million pact over 4 years. Anywho, the switch was a disaster for the Chiefs. Taylor committed a league-high 20 penalties per Pro Football Focus, while allowing 5 sacks on 1,076 offensive snaps. PFF graded him at a disappointing 52.1 on the year, showing that he was basically an average player with a $20 million average annual value. The only saving grace for Taylor, the Chiefs still had one of football's best O-lines in 2023, being led by interior linemen Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Joe Thuney. So Taylor's mostly lackluster and miserable play this year was easy to ignore thanks to the superstardom that surrounded him. Doesn't take away the fact that this was a big swing and a miss of a signing for the defending Super Bowl champions, though. Best, David Montgomery. After a 4-year run with the Chicago Bears, Montgomery stayed in the NFC North and signed a 3-year pact with the Lions worth $18 million. The Detroit front office stunned everybody by using the number 12 selection on Alabama running back Jahmyr Gibbs, despite already having the presence of Montgomery. Fast forward less than a year later, and yeah, I think we see why the Lions made this move. Montgomery and Gibbs formed football's most explosive running back duo of 2023, with the former tallying 1,015 rushing yards and a career-high 13 rushing scores, despite missing 3 games. Gibbs was no slouch himself as the RB2, compiling 945 rushing yards, 10 rushing scores, and 1,261 total yards of offense. If Gibbs didn't miss 2 games, the Lions would have had not 1, but 2 1,000-yard rushers. Montgomery and Gibbs perfectly exemplified the physically punishing smash-him-in-the-mouth offense that Dan Campbell wanted. And all it did was A, lead Detroit to its first division title in 30 years, and B, its first postseason win and NFC title game appearance since 1991. Who said the running back is a devalued position? The 2023 Lions, Montgomery and Gibbs in particular, would like to have a word with that crowd. Worst, Tremaine Edmonds. The 2-time Pro Bowl linebacker was a mainstay on the Buffalo Bills defense under Sean McDermott, yet he also carried plenty of risk entering free agency. For one, Edmonds was largely supported by a superstar-studded cast on the Buffalo defense. Secondly, off-ball linebackers just aren't worth the amount of money that he got from the Chicago Bears, that being a whopping $72 million over 4 years. Now, Edmonds did a record-high career 4 sacks to go along with 7 interceptions and 113 combined tackles, but he was also a major liability in coverage, allowing a 78.5 completion percentage when targeted for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns, according to Pro Football Reference. PFF also had him graded at just 56.6, which was a far cry from the 79.0 grade that he posted a year ago with the Bills. So the Bears basically got replaceable player caliber play from their $72 million man. Look, you don't have to be great at math to realize that that is a colossal disappointment of a signing for GM Ryan Poles and company. The one silver lining, there's nowhere for Edmonds to go but up after a disappointing first year in the Windy City. So, hey, maybe next year will be a bit better. Best, Jesse Bates III. You probably didn't find many, let alone any, folks who understood the Atlanta Falcons' decision to hand the ex-Bengals safety a lucrative 4-year deal worth $64.02 million last spring. That was just way too much money for a not great safety that had just one excellent season on his resume. Now, hindsight is 2020, but hey, I think we see why the Falcons paid Bates like a superstar. Bates single-handedly transformed Atlanta's defense into one of football's very best units. He tallied a career-high 6 interceptions to go along with 11 pass defenses, 3 forced fumbles, and 132 combined tackles. Those latter 2 marks were also career bests for Bates. Per Pro Football Reference, Bates also allowed just a 67.1 passer rating when targeted, that being the best mark of his entire career. Finally, Pro Football Focus had him graded at 90.6, putting himself in the category of football's elite defensive backs. Worst, Juju SmithSchuster. The New England Patriots made the mind-numbing mistake of letting top top wide receiver Jacoby Myers walked to free agency. Bill Belichick decided to replace Myers with the oft-injured Juju SmithSchuster, handing the speedy wideout a 3-year deal worth $25.5 million. Belichick clearly forgot the obvious that SmithSchuster simply had a great year for the Chiefs because he was playing for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. As expected, SmithSchuster was a non-factor on a lousy Patriots offense that was more unwatchable than the fourth Jaws movie. And a healthy reminder, no Jaws movie is worth watching after the first one. Smith-Schuster, dealing with a well-documented knee injury, missed 6 games and finished with only 29 receptions for 260 yards and a touchdown. Myers, on the other hand, had 71 receptions for 807 yards and a career-high 8 touchdowns. And that was despite playing second fiddle to superstar Devontae Adams in Sin City. All we can say is, Belichick's decision to swap out Myers for Smith-Schuster was just one of many mistakes that ultimately led to his departure from Foxborough. It was time for a change, all right. Best, Javon Hargrave. After losing to Hargrave and the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game, the 49ers saw the golden opportunity to turn an enemy into an ally. After hitting the open market, the star defensive tackle left Philly to sign a 4-year, $81 million deal with the 49ers. Hey, double whammy for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Hargrave added more juice to an already scary 49ers front 7 led by Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, tallying 7 sacks and 2 pass defenses. Per ESPN's data, Hargrave commanded the double team on 59% of his pass rushing plays. Even if he wasn't getting after the quarterback, Hargrave was just opening the door for the likes of Bosa and Eric Armstead to create pressure. The Eagles' loss turned out to be a giant, massive gain for the 49ers, who once again fielded an elite defense that propelled them to the NFC's top seed. And a Philly team that recorded a league-high 70 sacks a year ago finished with only 43 for the 2023 season. Hey, what can we say? It was a monumental win for the 49ers and a huge loss for the Eagles. But which other terrible and great 2023 NFL free agent signings should we have included on our list? Was there anybody that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.